Becoming a fan, I was like 4 or 5. First match I ever seen was Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania. From then, pure wrestling fan, can't get enough of it.
That love of wrestling has always been there from a very early childhood, where my father watched it, my grandfather watched wrestling, and my grandmother even punched him watching wrestling, got excited one day.
I've got bad knees, bad ankles, but I just fight on through it because I love wrestling.
It's the nerves, you begin to really crave that nerve just before you go out through the curtain. It builds up during the day to that very point, just as the part of your music hits where you know you're going to come out.
Watching it on TV when I was younger, I always loved it. They always say, don't try this at home, but yeah, everyone did it.
PWU formed in July 2007 with the death of UCW. The UCW wrestlers decided that they wanted to do a different style of show, which included no storylines.
But a lot of people, when UCW quit and folded, a lot of people wanted to walk away and say, right, we're done. But I was never going to let that happen, because the whole thing meant too much to me, and I was looking at a room full of trainees who were told, that's it, we're finished, it's all over. And I couldn't walk away from them. A bunch of lads who had put their all in for the last 4 or 5 years, to walk away from that and just leave them with their dream shattered was never ever going to happen.
UCW was just a lot more adult based. It was all for teenagers and the older crowd. There was a lot more hardcore matches. There was a table spot in pretty much every match. There was a low blow in pretty much every match. People bled a lot in UCW, whereas we kind of go more towards families and kids.
We can't afford to be lashing blood all over the place and causing serious injury and using baseball bats and barbed wire. We need to be slightly more PC than that now.
The main one behind it would have been JDP, who was the guy that got us all together and figured out how everything would have been running from then, and from that is basically stuck on as main in control.
There's a management team, which there's a vote. I can get outvoted, but technically I'm in charge. If there's a decision needs to be made, then people would come to me generally.
A lot of people do a lot of jobs when it's involved with shows, especially these days. A lot of the people, everybody helps with setting up the ring, everybody helps with taking down the ring, everybody helps set up, everybody helps with promotion.
The girls who do the merch are generally the other halves of the management. So it is quite good making friends in that way.
It's like a family, everybody gets along. That's one thing about it, especially with a company, with an indie company, is everybody has to work together to make the entire company, to make the whole show great.
They put every penny that we earn back into running the company. If we made a lot of money for a couple of shows, we've got new cameras to film the shows, new stage, new entranceway. We've got free training for a lot of the trainees as well, just as a kind of thank you for keeping on coming. And they literally constantly give back to us, and it's the best. It's really good to be able to have a company that actually cares about you as well as itself.
On the indie scene, you can't afford to not be a part of it. It's really, it ends up being the person that puts in the most effort and helps out the most, gets the most rewards in the end of the day, and gets to be part of the show.
Apart from the drinking blood and having pointy teeth, I'm not really too different from my gimmick. I am a little bit cocky in general. I am a little bit aggressive, but I'm a little bit nicer than Damien Corvin, just a little bit.
He can be quite nasty when he's Damien Corvin. being nasty to children and, playing up to the crowd. But in real life, he's not like that. He's actually quite sweet.
This is my most recent custom gear, all the way from AWP Australia. A guy named Sam makes it, and I mean, it's the best custom stuff for me. It was recommended by a couple of other guys. So the jacket is probably my favourite bit of the whole thing. This bad boy. It was like 300 quid just for this alone. Once you get the contacts on, that's the biggest difference. I mean, you wouldn't believe the difference that a pair of contacts makes to your entire look. It changes how you look as a person. Put the teeth in. Once that gear's on, I am Damien Corvin. Once that gear's on me, that's what I do. I am a vampire for like at least a half an hour. Go out in front of a couple of hundred people wearing nothing, but I mean, that's really is what that is a pair of boxers. You're going out in front of a lot of people wearing a pair of boxers and a pair of boots, and it takes a lot of guts.
Okay, so basically I'm the head trainer for the beginners class, and what we're doing here, this is our newest class. It's not all of them, but most of them are here, and what we're doing is trying to get them into the basics of wrestling. So it's not so much about what they're doing, it is what they're doing, that's important as well, but it's why they're doing things. So we're trying to break it down for them really slowly so they'll understand like the nature of wrestling, why you would put a move on a certain way, why you would put a certain hold on a certain way, but also the correct way to do it. Because wrestling fans are some of the most like rabid fans in the world, and they know exactly what's meant to be going on in the ring. So if one of these guys makes a mistake, the fans will pick up on it like that. So we're trying to make sure everything is absolutely bulletproof.
Well, just like doing the tie-up, basic tie-ups, like a collar and elbow tie-up there, it's just that you have to get into it properly, you have to get the feeling off it, you have to show expression and emotion in your face to actually get people to believe that you're doing it.
I mean, outside of here, we're all really good friends, but while you're in here, you've got to be a little more professional, and really, you've got to treat them like they're trainees when you're a trainer. Today it's just about intensity. Sometimes when they're performing some moves, as you can hear them now, they don't really have a kind of realism to them. I'd been doing this about 4 years before I started training anybody how to do it. I think it's important that you kind of need to know exactly what you're doing yourself before you try and train anybody else how to do it. And again, we only train what we're really good at, whereas I would be very good when it comes to, your in-ring character, and when it comes to like intensity during some moves, whereas, the likes of Tron would be better when it comes to chain wrestling and things along those lines.
Actually, the first UCW show I went to watch, after every match, this music hit and this 7-foot guy come out to the ring and killed whoever was left in the ring. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is scary. But when I met him, he was just so nice.
When Tron got signed to FCW, everyone was ecstatic, as you would be. He's your friend, and I mean, for somebody from our little company, Tron wrestles for, all over Europe as well, because, I mean, look at the size of him. He's a really talented wrestler. But, I mean, to get a contract, to get a developmental contract was a really big boost, not only, for him, because, I mean, that just shows how good you are, but for us, to be able to turn around and go, well, one of our guys has got this.
I personally didn't expect to be offered it. No one ever really, I suppose, really expects to be offered that opportunity.
One of our guys gets to go over to Florida, and train with WWE legends to possibly become a WWE wrestler. Then, if he can do it, then hopefully we can do it. And it just gives you that little bit of drive and push to be able to work a lot harder.
I honestly think the best match I've ever had is against Tron. The one before he went to America was absolutely fantastic, and I never have to worry about anything if I'm fighting Tron. After the match, the whole roster comes out to the ring to embrace him, and Terry T's crying, Tron's crying. It was, he was going and he was a big part of PWU.
Walking into FCW, you can't help but just be completely overwhelmed by the whole situation. I'm walking in the place and I'm getting trained by the likes of Ricky Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, Joey Mercury, guys that I've watched on TV. It's just completely overwhelming.
It was amazing, absolutely fantastic, and I think Tron was probably the least pleased out of everyone because he was so nervous about the whole thing. But everyone was just 100% behind him.
That holiday that you refer to, while I was there, I met people and made friends with the likes of Dusty Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat. You have no idea what I've learned since then.
The public speaking side of things in front of my own peers really got to me, and I think that had maybe a bit to do with it, with me being released.
He went over to the FCW, he went over to Florida, and he trained with the WWE. Anything he says, every one of us listens to because, he's been there and he knows what they want.
I think part of the problem was a lot of other people could see potential in me. I just couldn't see my own potential.
Some of the stuff we do to each other, at the last show I DDT'd Tucker onto the floor, and it doesn't matter how he knows how to protect his neck, it doesn't matter how he knows how to protect his face. If I'm driving his face from a headlock to the floor, it's going to hurt when he gets hit. It's really that simple.
You're bumping on a judo mat that's 2 inches thick onto a hard concrete floor and trying to not feel pain. Everybody feels pain. Every bump's sore. It's less sore if you know how to take it, but it still hurts. Whether the story is scripted or not, the moves that we're doing are real, and they do take a lot of training to do. There are people that I know, the best wrestlers, they train for maybe a year, 2 years before they even get their first shot in the ring. The worst thing I've ever seen was my own younger son, who's now left wrestling, before he actually went mental and killed himself, who went through a barbed wire table, and the table didn't fold right, and the actual barbed wire folded around both sides of his face, causing him severe lacerations all over his face and arms, and he ended up breaking a collarbone in the fall. Quite frightening when you're looking down from the ring and it's your own that's lying there in a heap, and you're having to carry him out to get him to the hospital. It's very unsettling. The worst injury I ever had, it was during training. I was doing a sunset flip, really, really basic move. I don't know how I botched it, but I did, and I landed like vertical on my neck, and I couldn't move my neck for a good couple of weeks. Couldn't really walk too good for a good couple of weeks, dizzy spells, things like that there. When I used to go, I've ended up in casualty with him a couple of times with his back and his neck, and that, I was in more of a state than he was. You get these injuries, and you kind of put yourself at risk. I'm lucky with my job now. They're very understanding that this is my hobby, this is what I do. And if I get injured, that I might be off work, and if something happens that, I might not be able to make it on a Monday morning. My mum won't watch anything that I do because she just wouldn't want to see me getting hurt, basically. She doesn't go to any shows or anything like that. She just stays away from it. She doesn't mind me doing it, but she just stays away. Tron put him through a table from the top of the ring, and he grazed the holes up his arm, and Tron also kicked him in the arm once, and we thought it was broken, so I had to basically badger him into going to the hospital for about 3 days till he actually went. If you think this is fake, we'll give you a free session. We'll put you through what we go through, and you won't want to come back if you think it's fake. I understand that we know how to fall, and I understand that we're taught certain ways to make things hurt less, and we accept that. But Tron's 7'2". If you take a choke slam from Tron, that's nearly 10 feet in the air. If you fall 10 feet in the air, I don't care who you are or how you know how to land, it's going to hurt when you hit the floor. A wrestling ring is wood and metal. I'm 26 and I feel like I'm 40. But, well, not really. I've got a sore back. I've got bad knees, bad ankles, but I just fight on through it because I love wrestling. Now that I've retired, what is it that I miss the most? I would have to say absolutely everything.
everything about being a pro wrestler I miss totally. I don't miss the pain that you get 2 days afterwards, because normally the next day you've just got the adrenaline, but 2 days. Normally you have the show the Sunday, the Tuesday, you can't move.
Whilst you may be inwardly suffering because of what's happened, these people have paid good money, hard-earned money to watch a show, and you can't afford to break what they see as their... They have suspended reality and come into the show and they want to see a show. So you have to try and make the show continue, cover up what might be happening by moving on through a quicker segment or getting off behind the scenes before people realise what has happened. You can't really break everybody else's dream because you're having personal issues at the time.
I don't think there's anything in wrestling at all that I could say 100%, no, I'm definitely not doing that. Not the biggest fan of tables, but I'll still take a table. Not the biggest fan of thumbtacks, but if I feel that a spot in a match will make the match better, or if it will make sense for what we're doing, then I'll do it. You know, if there's 50 people in the crowd, am I going to take a powerbomb off the top rope through a table? Probably not. But, you know, if there's a good crowd and it's going to make the storyline or it's going to make the match look a lot better, then I'll definitely would do it.
Laura loves it. Comes to every show, helps out at the door, loves seeing me getting my ass kicked.
As a couple, it's great because we both love wrestling, so it is quite good. Plus he's really lazy and doesn't leave the house that much, so it's a night out for me, so I get to go out and have fun with the girls. And so sort of as a couple, it's sort of, it gives us something to talk about at home as well, because he'll come in and I'll throw ideas and he'll tell me they're terrible, and it's quite good that way.
It's like a family, everybody gets along. That's one thing about it, especially with a company, with an indie company, is everybody has to work together. You have to respect each other, because if you didn't, your matches would not work.
You know, a lot of us are very close friends. Went to school with JDP and Rod. You know, we were on the rugby team, things like that there. A couple of our trainees went to school with us. You know, we're always very close-knit, and we continue to be close-knit.
One of the boys is getting married very soon, and his best man's one of the wrestlers. Two of his groomsmen are wrestlers. Half the people going to the wedding ceremony and to the reception are wrestlers and wrestlers' ladies. So, you know, in that sense, we go out together and we socialise together away from PWU.
The worst part of it is the better friends you are outside the ring, the more of a beating you let each other inside the ring. You know, from my experience with me and Sanchez and me and Tucker especially, you know, we really kick the head of each other, like, but you don't really care, you know, and the day after, yeah, you're a bit sore, you're a bit tired, you still get yourself up, you still get to the gym, you still work hard, and you still wait for Sunday.
I give advice, try and lend my experience to the boys, act as a sort of like a general counsellor almost to a lot of them, being the fatherly type, that they can come to me if they've got an issue and talk to me and about things that they wouldn't want to maybe talk to their mates about.
With Pro Wrestling Ulster, the guys at Pro Wrestling Ulster all knew. I've never been one to hide it. I wouldn't go around announcing it and parading and blowing trumpets and saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm gay."
Never, ever had a problem with him being gay. It's never been brought up in any conversation, really. It's just, he's Robbie, that's it. That's how we view everybody. It doesn't matter what you are. No real problem when it came to Robbie. We never publicised the fact that he was gay. It was never part of his character, so it never had to come out. He was just a big, tough South African. You know, we've had gay characters before, and the crowd loved them.
I truly believe that if anybody was to confront me about it while I was in the company of those guys, I think that they would all stand up for me. It's never happened. It could be because of the fact that I'm one of the bigger guys in the company, but that's not the point. I think that, yeah, they would probably stand behind me and they would stand up for me. But again, it's never been an issue, and as far as I'm concerned, it never will be, so.
Right, tonight we're at the Balmoral Hotel. It's really the home of PWU. We consider it our main home. where big shows are held here. This is the big summer show. Been here since 2 o'clock setting up. The ring's almost there. We're waiting a few repairs to do, and we'll be ready to go at 6:30 for the doors opening. There'll be hopefully a good crowd will turn up. They usually do. This is recognised as the home where most fans come to on a regular basis, and the boys are just getting themselves final preparations, final warm-ups done, getting the tan on and getting ready to roll.
Everybody's trying to set up the ring first. It's the most important part, probably. And it's a bit of a work. So we don't hire anybody outside. Everybody that wrestles for PWU does their part.
Yeah, tonight is match 2 of our best of 3 series. So me and Tucker's going to fire in some new stuff, hopefully, and it's going to be a better match than last time. Last time was more of a fight, so this is actually a wrestling match. So it should be good fun.
I've been chatting with the guys and they've invited me here today so that I can get into the ring and have 5 minutes and do a promo for my DVD release, which is coming up. Because of the fact that I worked with the guys for so long, they've convinced me to get back into the ring, but not as a fighting tonight. I'm just coming in to promote the DVD and then possibly get involved somehow, but you'll see how it's going to work out later on.
Welcome to Pro Wrestling Ulster!
Tonight's show's just finished. Everybody's hot and sweaty. Everybody had a good time. The crowd were up for it. The wrestlers were up for it. I was up for it. And new champion on the block. Sanchez has made it through. Last minute, unexpected. Don't see any of the crowd seen that one coming. In fact, I'm in charge and I didn't even see it coming. But great tag team match. Everybody's away home happy. I'm way home happy. Well, not quite yet of the ring to take down. And they'll all claim they're injured and I'll be left on my own again. But a good night was had by all, and we'll be back on the 26th of August to do it all again.
I want what every professional wrestler wants, and whether they admit it that they want it or not, or whether they're going to say that they want it or not, you want this to be your job, your full-time job. You know, you want to make a living being a professional wrestler. Now, whether that's in Japan or Mexico, or whether it's just being independent in Europe, or whether you've reached the levels of the WWE, you want this to be your permanent job.
I never really wanted to achieve anything big apart from just having the experience of doing it. And Pro Wrestling also gave me the opportunity, and I'm glad I took it.
Will I ever retire from PWU? I don't think so. I think they'll still wheel me out from the home every now and again as a special guest appearance. More like the hacksaw Jim Duggan, 75 with the belly, but I'll still be carrying the plank. I'm never gonna leave PWU. My body might leave it, but the spirit will always be there.
If you don't want this to be your job, I don't know why you're doing it. To be perfectly honest, I put a lot of money and a lot of effort into everything I do to try and be the best that I can be with professional wrestling. My gear itself costs an absolute fortune. I know a lot of guys in Ireland spend an absolute fortune on their look, and if you don't really want this to be your permanent job, then I don't know why you're doing it.
Do I still go to shows? Yes, I do. I think I've only missed one since I retired, and that was because of the fact that I wasn't in the country. But I do try and go down and support them and watch and see what's going on, because it was a long time. It was 8 years of my life.
I'm most proud of seeing young fellas who I first met when they were 14, 15, 16. They're growing up, they're getting married, they're having families, and they're developing as mature human beings. If I played a small role in that, that's where I'm most proud.
There's always that small little part of me that hopes that one day I'll be there and they'll go, do you know what, we could use a manager, or we could use an announcer, or we could use something that I'll be able to say, all right, cool, and step back in and get involved.
Everyone's goal is to get to WWE. People can say it's not, and it is, but I'm not too worried. I don't. When I was younger, even though I'm only 26, but when I was younger, I used to want to work in every promotion. I used to want to go down south, go to Liverpool, go to England, Scotland, and work as much as I can. But now I'll take the booking if it's offered to me, but I won't go looking for one. I prefer to just concentrate on PWU and making it as big as I can, and bringing up new, fresh guys and sending them off. I've worked with loads of the bookers from down south, 5 years ago, and now they're running their own promotions down south, and we can exchange talent, bring young guys up, send young guys down, and I just want PWU to get as big as I think it deserves to be.
Make sure you tell him if you see him that you ain't seen me.